Hello everyone, I'm Daniel Varga and here with me Memes of Destruction, and he also made a PaCE1 video for Toa with Curt Jaimungal YouTube channel. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, hey guys, what's going on? Memes here. And yes, I am a fellow honorable mention to Danielle over here, or over here, I apologize. I'm inverted here. That's why my level up is backwards. But yeah, no, Kurt was nice enough. Curt Jaimungal, shout out to Theories of Everything with Curt Jaimungal. We had both entered into his PaCE1 contest there, and we got some honorable mentions. And just with some of the timing and everything, we just happened to both be on stream at the same time. So we're already entangled, Daniel. This is only going to help things, in my opinion. But no, it was a wonderful thing. I love that that was set up. And one of the things that I've noticed is just with every different corner of the internet, every little valence of whatever particular topics or subjects or people it is, I have noticed that the toe community has actually been a lot of positivity coming out of that. And I do think that you are actually a key player in that as well, just because I don't always go on Discord, usually only on Sundays for like Dungeons and Dragons. It was canceled yesterday. But I noticed like you're always very positive. You're always very supporting of other folks, and you actually collaborate with some other folks to help extend each other's theories out and everything. And it's just a lot of fascinating stuff. And just in these times where it can be seem like it's dark and full of terrors, I think the greater toe community is going to be a light in 2023. I claim.
That's good, and I think you are a really positive person as well, as I see you positive vibes from you. Let me ask you, where did you find the contest and why you entered into the contest? What was your motivation?
Well, first I came across it. I'd been following Kurt for a little while now. I think full disclosure, I am a Patreon member of Kurt's. I do shell him out. I think like $10 a month because I do think good work should be supported. Just my personal opinion. And one of the things that I noticed, it was it. He had a video and he announced it like around the beginning of one of the videos I was tuning in for. Like I don't watch all of them. It's I usually when it's a science thing, if it's like science or physics, the consciousness stuff, it's interesting. Irrelevant. It's just I'm really science is my safe space. It's I did a whole politics thing for a while. It drained my soul, and then I'm like, okay, kind of got interested because one of Kurt's former guests, Dr. Eric Weinstein, he had been on the Joe Rogan Experience, started talking about spinners and everything. I'm like, whoa, that's fascinating. So I started going down this rabbit hole. I came across Professor Brian Keating as well, and he started doing all these science podcasts and everything. So I'm like, all right. And then just by searching around, I think it was actually probably it was actually either probably Dr. Weinstein or Professor Keating had been on Kurt's channel. I had kind of found him that way through the internet algorithms and stuff. And he had announced that. I'm like, oh, that's cool because I had been meaning to make a video for a while and just I'm actually maybe a little surprised, maybe not so much that I did get an honorable mention just because honestly I really didn't do much explaining a particular theory. It was more of a documentation of like how I kind of stumbled across this. That's why I called it how I stumbled upon the best theory of everything yet. Personally, I say that in quotations because typically, at least within the kind of the physicsy realm of things, I agree with Professor Stephen Wolfram in that we're talking about more of like a fundamental theory of physics because a theory of everything. And I think this is something that, is it John? I'm sorry, I'm confusing so many different people's names. He was trying to kind of reconcile that because a lot of times I personally think a lot of us were talking about a lot of the same things. We just happen to use different words and everything. And then since typically people believe what they're doing, because otherwise, why the heck would they be doing it? That creates conflict and everything. And that's why I do like this diverse set of approaches and everything I heard Curt was doing a contest. I'm like, all right, hey, get some free advertising. My big thing is I had a very particular circumstance of events. I ain't the smartest dude in the world. I may be one of the luckiest sons of guns on the planet. And my thing is, well, if they say you're supposed to live your life like you're in a movie, when we want to put on the best dang movie we could. And that was one of the reasons why I did the video, because I think some of the stuff I've come across, it's important. Nobody needs to necessarily believe it. I mean, people will believe what they want. If they want to believe it, that's cool. But I have seen things that give me a certain level of belief that this is probably the best stuff out here, as far as on like the physics side and stuff like that. In my opinion, again, I am not a professionally trained physicist. I am a dude on the internet, but I am blessed enough to have the internet and be able to reach out to smart people like yourself, like Curt, like some different folks, and be able to speak to them. Maybe get some interaction, some engagement. I know Professor Sean Carroll's lectures on the biggest ideas in the universe. I spent like an entire summer while at work just listening to that. Just like, did I know what he was saying? Not really at all. But over time, being exposed to different topics, different terms, and different people, it's when I grew up, they always said I studied a little bit of Spanish. Un hablo poquito español, very little. But they always said the best way to learn a language is to be immersed in it. So I'm like, well, if I want to learn this stuff, I'm not currently going to school for like all the science and stuff, but I have the internet. Let me listen to this. Let me immerse myself in this. And now I find, just following the algorithm, it's sending me back to lectures that I'd listened to about a year or two ago. And now listening to them a second time, I'm like, I recognize those words. I've heard about these concepts and principles before from other videos. I actually kind of understand a little bit of what Professor Carroll's saying now.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And that's the beautiful part about the day and age we live in.
Yes, that's... I am agree with you. And
okay, I'm sorry, to answer your question. I feel like this is something the world should probably know about. That was the quick answer to
that's great. And I think Curt also mentioned the consistency, and you should try to do it. And at the time when you are ready, you will understand the key concept. So the explore is the key. The journey is the key, and you will arrive sometimes when you are ready, or when someone is ready. So my question is, do you wish to try to explain a little bit about the particular theory you showed, or you don't feel any confidence to talk about? If you have, please try to explain in a little bit shorter sentence or shorter term what is the theory was about, and let us hear why you are fascinated by. Okay, if you cannot do this first, just why you are really fascinated by.
I would say this is why I set up the video the way I did now. I realize we're limited on time, so we won't share it there. But basically, the reason why I did the video the way I did is, so I started exploring the whole theories of everything. Geometric unity, I had downloaded Professor Weinstein's paper and everything. I got through probably about 10 pages or so. I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of really complicated notation stuff here. I have no idea what is this proto space time he's talking about here. I'm like, what is this? I thought that was an important question. I think Professor Wolfram calls them eames or whatever now. So I started following the Wolfram Physics Project, and one day after I actually had been entangled with some certain folks. Now, my personal opinion, I'm a longtime troll. I believe we trolls are the lubricant of the internet. We keep things running. Now, a lot of folks associate that with negativity. It's not always negativity. It's just I feel like a lot of petty trolling is just kind of the hour of the day. I'm bringing it back around. I'm only getting sidetracked for so long. But essentially, I think certain people should know what other folks are up to. Because like you'll see different folks on people's channels, and then I saw something on the Wolfram Physics project, and something that Professor Keating was talking about like deviations or a fifth force. So I kind of spliced up a video, just letting folks know what was going on, because you never know where a good idea may come from. And then one of my friends on Twitter, Nolan, he kind of entangled me. He's like, "Oh, add some hip hop and some Thad Roberts." I mouse over one of the gentlemen he tagged. I'm like, "Oh, this guy's a theoretical physicist." I'm like, "I like that stuff. Follow." So I was following him, and then one day, going out for a run, just doing a jog outside, I bring up Twitter, just looking to see, well, who's streaming, who's doing something. And then I'm looking, and it's like source code 7. Oh, this is a tweet from this theoretical physics gentleman that I followed. I click on it. I pop in about 12 or 14 minutes into the premiere. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm like, photonic solid, that's kind of cool and everything. I'm listening. It's like almost like a 2-hour video. I'm like, if half the stuff this dude is claiming is true, this is revolutionary. But I take it with a grain of salt, because it's just a random dude on the internet. I am a random dude on the internet. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. That was on April 6th. The very next day, April 7th, they came out with the muon G2 results. That deviation from the standard model that was big hubbub about a year or so ago. Going on 2 years now. So April 7th, 2021, I'm at work. I'm listening to Fermilab unseal and do the results. And like, this is our Mars rover landing and everything. Thousands of people years and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is a pretty big deal. I'm like, okay. So they announced and everything. I'm like, that's kind of cool. So then I tweet at the gentleman, because it's fresh in my head, because I just listened to this premiered video last night. I'm like, I'm not sure if this was included, but does this help your model? He's like, yes. I'm like, okay. So I go home after work. I go to the Fermilab website. I'm like, I check the results. I'm like, okay. I go back to the video that premiered the day before and go to that point in the video where he was going over the calculations and stuff. I'm like, dude, man, nailed it. He predicted the muon G2 results. That's when I started to pay attention. But to go into it, I basically started following him more, going into some of his work. I then started to I interviewed him twice, and ultimately, that's how the story kind of ends, is I actually joined his think tank group that him and another founder recently started, the Physics Monastery. I've been out there a few months ago. I'm going back next month to do some work. And it's absolutely fascinating, because essentially the model, to sum it up really short, to bring it back around, it kind of sounds like what Dr. Eric Weinstein was attempting to do with geometric unity. And like, he got really close. This is stuff he was doing like 20, 30 years ago, just basically by himself. I'm like, he was able to get really, really close to like unifying everything. And he did have some predictions at some different energy levels and stuff. But to sum it up, this gentleman also had the benefit of like the internet, YouTube, Wikipedia, Wolfram Alpha. Oh, and somebody actually helped send him an email to let him know what was going on, because basically he was studying the fine structure constant. They sent him an equation that could geometrically predict the fine structure constant out to like 7 significant digits. It's more than that, but that was 2 orders of magnitude better than what he had seen before. So he's like, okay. He goes in there, he cleans up the algebra a little bit, going back from rather the fine structure constant as we colloquially know it, like the 0.00729, yada, 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 to what I believe Professor Feynman may have referred to as the true fine structure constant. It's basically, it's the square root of that, because normally you square it. It's one of those constructive things in physics that I feel like will make a lot more sense once I learn more. But essentially, he cleaned up the algebra. He's like, this is a very simple geometric equation. He's like, what if I assumed it was true? What would I have to modify this equation by to have it equal the fine structure constant? Some may call that a lambda, basically a difference. That difference happened to come out to be the Planck mass, which seemed like a very interesting coincidence, that the Planck mass happened to be the boundary of which the electromagnetic force of which, as we know it via the fine structure constant, happens to wrap around. That's basically where it got started. It's essentially the closest thing that folks would probably understand is it's basically kind of like geometric unity, except he had some major hints and a lot of other stuff. And he spent about 20 years of his life. Like, this is his life. This is his passion. Like, probably could have published a bunch of papers and stuff. Like, he has books. I have some of the books here. But essentially, he just wants to do his work. He has the think tank. He's able to do his work. He actually gave me permission to publish. I need to get approved of the archive and stuff. But yeah, it's essentially, think of if you've ever heard of like ADS CFT. It depends on which direction we want to go. But like you hear some,
sorry, you mean that anti-de Sitter space? That's
yeah, kind of like the holographic principle. In that, I know Professor Leonard Susskind speaks about it in reference to black holes very often, but I believe it's Professor Juan Maldacena who, along with Professor Susskind, have really spearheaded this in saying that what if some of the things that we notice, like I had Jonathan Gorod on at one point, and the way he described it to me is he was one of the gentlemen that helped, one of the individuals that helped Stephen Wolfram really kickstart the Wolfram Physics Project. And he described it as, think of the ADS CFT, depending on how many dimensions and stuff you want to have there. Think of it like a can of soup. So it's like you have like a bulk soup gravity theory in the center. Like that's a soup in the can. And then you have the label on the can, like a quantum theory label there. So basically, the quantum field theory is essentially two-dimensional, but the bulk gravity theory is three-dimensional. So that's a way to help you connect, like, or the 3+1 dimensional, a hyperbolic structure of general relativity to a quantum field theory, if you could get things to line up correctly. Essentially, the claim is, and again, I'm not saying it's completely right or anything, but it reproduces the numbers we have from quantum field theory. It has predictions for neutrinos and everything using pretty decent guess, in my opinion. And it unites general relativity with quantum field theory in that this is good. This is good. I haven't practiced doing a quick pitch of this. I didn't know where to go. I'm going on the universal, or at least our realm of persistence style. Yeah, but basically, essentially, a lot of the information on the boundary itself, that may help explain why we have like entanglement. And it's like, how the heck could information move faster than light? Like that shouldn't make sense unless the information is being processed at the boundary and the physical effect is over here. Now, I might just be making some of that stuff up there. I have no idea if that's exactly what's going on, but that's what it kind of sounds like what's going on. All right. How much longer do you want me to go?
Thank you. That was a really good ending point there. And that's what I like about you and about what you explained. Because it might help someone to understand, maybe Ted Roberts, I think the guy you talking about, his theory, and maybe that will helpful for someone in the future or even close tomorrow or when the video will be released. All right, so I would like to, and thank you, that was really good pitch actually. So I would like to ask you, did you watch another videos on PaCE1? And let me ask you, what was your favorite or the favorite first three? Could you tell about that a little bit?
I've watched several of the videos, yourselves included, the Sonic Gravity podcast, who I actually had him on last week. And who else? I think it was James. I may not have finished James's one. I apologize. I watched a couple others. There were the couple of peer reviews that I had watched. And maybe one, two. My favorite one was actually one of the winners, the null or the surreals numbers. That video was absolutely fantastic, just for so many reasons. It was put together so professionally well. The video, the audio, the narration, the dry satirical humor. It had everything in it. And I actually invited them to come on at one point. They didn't tell me no, but I think they're more of an introverted person from what I could tell there. So hey, no pressure. I think I will ask again. But the thing is with that, I'm just like, oh, they're going into like these numbers and like a conceptualization in ways like I hadn't even considered. Like I understand like number theory is a thing, but it's like, well, I guess there's a reason why people could spend like years, like their entire lives, and then some, just like studying number theory. It's like, wait, all of a sudden you can get to an omega, that's an end, but that end is actually just a new beginning, and now we're like kind of moving things over here and there, and I may have just my observation was like, this seems like a bifurcation. There are other reasons why I may have said that as well, and it could be either a very kind of trolly comment, which I totally admit it is. Maybe it's a slightly profound comment according to some people. I don't know. I'll take all the praise I can get. But I totally love that video, and just even some of the things that you did with the jumping continuity theory. I'm like, I didn't go in the direction that he did. I was just going on like scales, like enormous scales, and just kind of like, what happens if I just keep on applying like the fine structure constant or something? Like, what will we see in these different ways? And I did like how you were kind of going up from like the smallest of the small. I'm like, all right, he's working in a different direction. And some of the things you did have in there actually, I believe, kind of tie into some of the things that I think Tyler Goldstein had been working on with his theory. And then I think what was it, Jay Leho or something like that. He's the I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar with some like
Chris Leto, I think.
Yes, Chris Leo. I know. I was shilling out his channel. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm like, okay, again, I think a lot of us were kind of talking about the same thing. It's just we're using some different words, and that's why I like to see when things are kind of like, okay, they kind of get into this group. Maybe we can use a little maybe category theory or something. I know Kurt's maybe not the biggest fan of that, but just being able to be like, okay, this is within this valence. It may belong to a number of different categories or groups or subsects, but depending on how we line them up, can we tell a coherent story about what's going on? But yeah, no, I've watched some, and I there are a couple more that I still need to watch. So
yeah, all right, that's great. Actually, my goal as well, I would like to integrate a little bit more than before have been done. So this is why also I try to make these interviews at the first place. And I think the TOA Discord community is really helpful in that way as well, because lots of people, lots of different backgrounds, and I think I see an integration and towards a bigger goal, and I think it will happen in the future. So I would like to ask you as well, share the word. I would like to interview most of the PaCE1 Contest videos or video makers, and I wish to make something like that, a conference about the PaCE1 or about the theories
awesome.
of everything.
See, you're totally proving that you're a part of this. That I claim that you are one of the instrumental people. Had you not even done the jumping continuity theory, just actions like this, there are always people behind the scenes that maybe you almost never hear their name or something, but they were so instrumental in just like even just introducing two people, and all of a sudden, boom, you have a great idea. Continue.
So that's really important, and I think Tyler is on really good track. One really important question before we wrap up. I would like to ask you if you can introduce or just explain or give us a video or a book what our audience or people should read or watch. What would be the one you would like to advise, or if you have something?
It depends on what you're interested in. That's the thing. It's like I ain't the boss of nobody.
All right. Yeah,
if you no, I will give an answer.
Okay.
I give that caveat just because it's like, oh, I don't know. This is just how I am. As far as particular books, hold on. If you're looking for a fundamental theory of physics, I'll send you the link after. Probably, I'm gonna go with the simplest universe on Thad Roberts' channel. It was probably about like a year, probably 2 years ago now that he put it up there. That's the one he told me to recommend people to, and upon learning more, it probably is a good place to start. Um, I mean, I have my PaCE entry with like plenty of links and stuff. Like, because I love how you and Curt do that. We basically you put all the links. That's so important. I call that an information net node because like you might have an idea, but if you can minimize the clicks it takes for a person that's interested in an idea, they can stay interested in the idea and follow through. That's why I like putting like Wolfram Alpha links and stuff. It's like if you're curious about what I was talking about, click on this or copy and paste this into this search engine and you can figure it out. But as far as books, this basically it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen. Um, I was full disclosure, I was totally referenced as a editorial a contributor in like the first edition there, and I am part of the think tank, so it's totally in my own self-interest. Just I need to be honest about my biases and everything. That or if somebody's interested in a broader thing, full disclosure, I have not read this book. It's so big. Ugh. Stephen Wolfram's A
Wolfram
New
Orphan.
Kind of
Yeah.
Science. Yeah, it literally weighs like 5.5 pounds. It's huge. I listened to his coverage of like the book and stuff like that, so that's why I say at least I can remember because he was kind of reading from the book and it's his book. So, yeah, those are two decent things. If you're interested in kind of like the search for understanding like what's going on in our realm of persistence.
Thank you. That was really nice. Actually, I have a really nice story about the new kind of science. That is the book from Wolfram
Mhm.
Alpha. I studied environmental engineering in university,
Mm.
and I wanted to read this book, and there was nothing in our country or in our city in this book. So, but I had the chance to ask a representative to get this book. So now people can go into that library and get this book.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. You're bringing knowledge to the world.
yeah. So that is really nice. Yeah. So really, thank you to being here. If you would like to have some closing thoughts, just feel free to tell anything.
Well, there's one gripe that I have with the greater physics community, the lack of turtles. That's the thing. That's been a meme for a long-standing time. I forget where it started, but somebody was at like the National Science Fair or something, and they're like, "Well, everyone knows the world's on top of a giant turtle." It's like, well, what's that turtle on top of? Another turtle. What's that turtle on top of? Another turtle. No, no, you don't get it. It's turtles all the way down. And I feel like that's something that physics has. We're getting away from the turtle memes, and I feel like that brings a little bit of levity to something because people still use that phrase, but deep dive when you're looking up what was it? I was doing some research on I think like the Becken maybe it's not the Bekenstein-Hawking coordinates or whatever, but something about an internal geometry of a black hole. It was conjectured there was a tortoise point somewhere there. They literally named it the tortoise point, where all like that geometric stuff and things, maybe kind of like a hot vibration, something, maybe you can imagine something like that. Again, I have no idea if this is correct, but there was a tortoise coordinate there. And just, I think we need to have a little bit more levity and stuff like that because a lot of times it's like, you have a lecture and people will be going, okay, we start with this, and don't get me wrong, it's very cool, it's very useful. But one of the things that I've learned is some of the smartest people, some of the people that may have actually solved some of these incredibly hard ideas, they might not be the best communicators, perhaps verbally, perhaps written as well. Because like we all have different strengths, we all have different things that we can contribute in one way or another. And just I feel like we could do a better job at maximizing all these different things because it's like, yeah, some dude in the yellow level up shirt that's backwards because I didn't change my camera around wearing sunglasses and a bandana on the internet. Maybe he's entertaining for a few minutes. Did he actually say anything? It's just I like to talk to the people often behind the scenes as well. Not everything needs to be public, just because that's how I learn. And when I learn, I'm like, all right, well, you give credit where credit's due. That's the thing. I got this idea from this person. I didn't think of that myself. No, it's you just give people shout outs and stuff because that's one of the big things. Because I think a lot of people, they're kind of hesitant to come forward because they're like, well, if I say something, somebody's going to steal my idea. And the problem is at that point, now we're just kind of hoarding potential useful knowledge. It's kind of like potential energy and kinetic energy. There might be all this energy out here, but if we got all this extra potential, just people that haven't said anything, all I got to say, my friends, is rule 2 of the internet. The internet's forever. And one of the great things about YouTube is it time stamps and dates things as well. So if you were one of the first people to be talking about it, there will be a record. Now, if somebody wants to like publish something or patent something and everything, okay, that's showing a little extra air of, I actually believe this is true, because you often got to spend a fair bit of time and money on it, rather than me who will just randomly just start up a live stream going for 15 minutes about are photons the universe's sweat or something like that. And I try to draw it back to actual different science and see if maybe there's a connection or just another way of thinking about something, because universal truth number 4, we never know where a good idea may come from.
Yeah, all right. That was really nice at the end. Guys, links will be in the description, and see you guys next time.
Cool. Peace out, everybody.
Bye-bye.